Hi, I'm Nicole. I'm a part-time artist and full-time medical educator. And today, as I prepare for my next creators event, I'm going to reflect on my experience at ArtExpo New York 2026. Yeah, and the next event is in May, and I'll talk about that later too. Yeah, so ArtExpo New York is an art fair that's organized by, I forgot the name, but it's a rather larger event, a 4-day event, and it features quite a few individual creators as well as galleries, and it was held at Pier 36 in Lower Manhattan. Yeah, so I was there just last week. And so today I'm going to talk about why I decided to go to ArtExpo 2026 with a gallery company, the actual experience of being there, and what I gained. And I did not know about this event when I lived in New York. I don't think they had it to start with. And I learned of this event through a gallery/art company called Japan Promotion, and they contacted me via my Instagram account, DM. And they saw my art. They first offered to include me in an event in Paris, but I wasn't really feeling Paris at the time, so I declined. But then they followed me up with a notice on an event in New York, and I said, New York, why not? I lived there for 15 years. Yeah, and the last time I've been there was like close to 10 years ago, so I thought that was a nice change in scenery, being in Sapporo for some time. And of course, as many artists know, when somebody contacts you on Instagram and they offer you something, it's a scam 90% of the time. But I knew their company was legit, like they actually do help you participate in art fairs and whatnot, and I knew that ArtExpo New York was also legit. So, then comes the argument of cost versus benefit, and it did cost quite amount of money. I'm not going to disclose how much because I think the Expo New York has their own privacy policies that I respect, and also looking up ArtExpo New York online. Oh, it's organized by Redwood. Yeah. I think the actual exhibit fee is like not really expensive when you're exhibiting individually, but considering the transportation and shipping of your art and having to be there the whole time as you exhibit, that's a whole different set of costs. So at the end of the day, I think having a gallery or a curator organize everything for you and you paying for it does actually balance out well, in my opinion. Yeah, so that's why I decided to go. And the actual experience. So ArtExpo New York was in early April last week, but I was required to submit 2 works to Japan Promotion by around 5 or 6 months prior to the event so that they could prepare everything. And then I submitted my artist statement as well as descriptions of my works about a month after submitting the actual art pieces. After that, I did have one editing check of my artist statement and introduction page, online page. And then it was the actual day, and I met up with them for the first time in person at New York. So very very easy for me, just taking myself there. So there, I had enough wall space to exhibit 2 works. One being, I'll have the photos up here. One being Saturate, which was one of my most popular works I created last year. It features Mount Yote, which is like the Mount Fuji equivalent in Hokkaido. It's close to the region I did my rural service when I was a family physician. And then the second work is Celebrate, which features a number of places that hold meaning to me. And I have 36 hearts stamped on it, which represents or symbolizes the 36 years I've been living. Yeah. And the statements or the descriptions of these works are both available in my blog. So I'll have the blogs linked in the description of this video if you're interested. Yeah. I chose those 2 because they were large enough for an art fair, and of course, and also because I wanted to. Yeah, this whole thing, is very intuitive to me. So like I have all these logics that I built to pitch to my parents or like talk to my workplace and such, but when you boil it down, it just comes down to my intuition. They invited me, they offered me, and I decided to go. In some events I do, some events I don't. That's it. So I took those 2 work with me. The actual exhibit, I was actually very overwhelmed by the number of people that were there and the number of art pieces. And I was also very afraid to see some children running around, and somebody also had a dog with them. But I was like, that's New York, why not? I had more people listen to me talk about my art than I'd expected. So I had a lot of chance to verbalize my process and my ideas and my values as an artist, and also as a medical educator, because my background is always in medicine, and my values are always in how people perceive and make decisions. So those 2 are always together. And people were interested enough or invested enough to listen to me. And although I didn't really get to make any sales or new contracts with anybody, I think just having people give me their time and attention to that extent was more than enough for me. So that I'm glad I went. And then in the whole experience, of course, was New York City. I stayed in the NoHo area because the event itself was in Lower Manhattan, and I like the NoHo Soho vibes. And I got to meet up with my friends from elementary school and middle school, and I'm very grateful that they made time and effort to see me there too. And also I went to Barnes & Noble, because I always like Barnes & Noble. It's different from Japanese bookstores, I got this marquee. It says Teimiko on air, and it's different light modes. Oh yeah, I hope that's not too distracting. So yeah, that was my whole experience. And I exhibited there in kimono. I took 3 wears there. So that was something new for me. I'd never traveled with kimono in my life, and my first experience was an international flight, which worked out, which was nice. Yeah. As an artist, as I said, I was very, very happily surprised to know that people are interested in what I do as an artist. And Japan Promotion had invited a critique over. I think they've worked with her a couple times in the past. And when she provided critique for my art, I was fortunate enough to be there. And she asked me many, many questions about my intentions as an artist. And that also pushed me to put everything into words. And I realized how much intention I actually have compared to some other artists that are different. And to me, that was something new I learned about myself. And also, when the critique was leaving, she came back up to me and said she would love to have me continue what I'm doing. While that, of course, does not warrant any, wealth or like connections in the future, I felt like, I'm doing my life I'm doing myself some good. Like, I'm valuing myself as a person. And that was more than what I expected to feel. And I also made some artist friends. I was very surprised to see that there were many, many Japanese exhibitors and galleries there. Well, not many, like 3 or 4 or 5, which is a lot, considering you're in the States. And also, there was a Japanese physician there, like myself, and he was also wearing Japanese traditional wear. So I guess, I don't know, great minds think alike. So that was a surprising, happy surprise. Also, I made friends with other artists that were exhibiting for ArtExpo New York, Japan promotion. So apparently 50 artists signed up with Japan promotion for this event, but only like less than 10 showed up at the actual expo. Because, traveling to New York is a big thing when you're living in the Far East. For me personally, it was like revisiting my childhood memories. I didn't live in the city. I lived a little bit more north, not upstate, but just a little bit more north, in Westchester. So yeah, so the few people that were there with me, I became good friends with. Hopefully, they think so too. And also, as a person, I felt like I was able to recognize how I've been making some recent life choices very, very actively, like making active choices. Because in the past, especially when I was suffering from depression and was on medical leave, I felt like I was just existing in Japan by chance, and like I couldn't help it but stay in Japan. But now, that's now spending a week in New York helped me. I didn't do a lot of thinking, it was more like feeling. I felt New York, I felt my friends living there, I felt the atmosphere, and I love it. I love it there in New York City. I loved wearing kimono there. It was actually, I felt more comfortable wearing a kimono in New York rather than in Japan, because I feel like in Japan, when you're wearing a kimono, people are judging you. I know nobody is, but like it's easier to have that like you're just doing something because you want to mentality in New York. But all things considered, I think I can now say for myself that I choose to be in Japan, especially in Sapporo. And there's no really like good logical reason for that at the moment, but I choose to be here and I like it. And I think that's something that I would have been able to come to a conclusion to had I stayed in Sapporo and not actually been present at the actual ArtExpo New York. Yeah. Oh, and one more thing. I felt like as I was explaining everything about my art to people, they were just visitors, tourists, there were people living in the area looking for art to, you know, put up in their living room or their workplace. And then there were curators and collectors in other galleries. So I was explaining my process to many people with different backgrounds. And in that process, I forgot exactly when, but the idea came up to me that my process of creating mixed media work is very similar to my journaling process. And that was a new ideation for me, but I really resonated with it. So I think my intuition is getting a little bit sharper these days, and I'm trying to work a little bit more on how I can express myself both visually and also verbally. There's always, you know, the discussion, the argument of whether you should have everything in words as an artist, or you should just have your art speak for itself. I personally think that now, because we're like connected to everybody all the time, and people can like receive different messages from all over the world to all over the world, I think having a set of words spoken from your mind, the language part actually, you know, has its own value. That complements what you create as a visual artist. Does that make sense? I hope that does. So that was my whole experience at ArtExpo New York 2026. My next upcoming event is Sapporo Mono Village. Mono means stuff in Japanese. It's not the mono from mononucleosis, it's Mono Village. I'll be there both days, May 3rd and 4th. It's during Golden Week in Japan. And I'll be tabling at the illustration section. There's a whole lot of, I think there are close to 1,000 exhibitors, people selling their art, crafts, jewelry, clothing, and there are also actual companies, so like bookstores and art supply stores there, and there are bakeries and also other food trucks, and it's a whole thing. It's the biggest creators event in Hokkaido region. It's like Design Festa in Tokyo, but a lot smaller, and it's more spacious. I like Mono Village more than Design Festa for various reasons. And so I'll be selling smaller canvas works there, and I prints and also little crafts of organs. Like you can have your very own mandible, or you can have your very own liver sticker, or I'll have my nephro sticker and pelvis sticker, intestine. So I'll update you on that. And that's it for my video for today. So if you like what I was talking about or what I'm creating, please like, subscribe, check me out on Instagram and Patreon, or otherwise I'll see you again in my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.